the force of gravity.
Yeah. So.
And then going forward, how come when I have a 5 kilogram mass of lead and a 10 kilogram mass of lead at the same spot, how come the 10 kilogram mass weighs twice as much as the 5 kilogram mass with everything else being equal?
Can you show
It
us that?
applies twice the force.
What's that?
It has twice the mass. It applies twice the force.
Okay, so we agree. Mass causes force, but even when it's not accelerating.
That's my point. So you can't argue that therefore you're accelerating.
We are that is exactly.
Hang on. You can't argue both that there is a downward force and that we are accelerating upwards. You have to pick one or the other.
Quick, hey, real quick, RG, real quick. We were in the middle of Wesley explaining how the Earth is accelerating upward towards, or whatever, accelerating towards a skydiver on one side of the ball as well as a skydiver on the other side of the ball at the same time. He was going to explain the physics to that, and then Bacon sidetracked it, I think, a little bit.
Oh, didn't
sidetrack.
It was on your side.
You feel the force in your feet, and if you take an accelerometer out, it shows you accelerating upward if it's calibrated, and then you can the weight is your force. Weight is force, and force is mass times acceleration. So if we weren't accelerating, then we would have no weight.
I'm talking about the objective reality of the Earth accelerating in two different directions towards the two different skydivers. How is that possible? That's the physics I want to hear. Not just about accelerometer.
Because gravity warps space-time, and so space is being warped around you. It's the same reason, like as you approach the black hole, time slows down. So it's the same kind of concept. But if you can't understand that force is mass times acceleration and that we are accelerating upwards, then you're not going to get the warping of space.
There's nothing. It has nothing to do with understanding that force equals mass times acceleration.
No, it has everything to do
about
with
the literal physics of how the Earth could be accelerating towards both skydivers.
Yeah, because we can test it, and it is accelerating.
How could it literally be doing it if the skydivers are on opposite sides of the ball?
I'll say it one more time in case you couldn't hear me. But
no. But you're not explaining what you said. Doesn't explain how it could literally, objectively be doing that.
No, it does explain it literally. You don't understand it, though.
No, it doesn't. Just saying that warping of space-time doesn't do that. It doesn't explain it.
It kind of does, because the space-time in GR is inertial. So, if space-time is bending towards Earth, that's the inertial frame. Yep. Then it's Earth that is accelerating towards you, not you that are accelerating towards us. But Earth doesn't have to get any bigger because the space-time is shrinking towards Earth. So space-time is getting smaller, not Earth getting bigger.
That's why there are flat earthers that are upward or whatever, upward earthers, because they realize that the Earth is accelerating upwards, because there's tests to show that.
Those aren't real flat earthers.
I think what
Bacon,
in your model,
Bacon, you're really are you a flat earther, or what do you classify yourself as when it comes to the shape of the Earth?
I'm a truth seeker.
Hey, if you don't mind, I got interrupted rudely. If you
he's
don't
the
mind,
only one here
check it
out
out.
of everyone here. He's the only one that's actually had a flat Earth birthday party. So
it's going to come down to Bacon saying we just deal with one reference frame at a time, right, Bacon?
No, that wasn't my answer.
Bacon, do you know you
how does it objectively go? How does it accelerate towards skydivers that are on opposite sides of the ball? Explain the physics in a very, very clear way so everybody in the room can actually understand how it can literally objectively be going in two different directions at the same time without expanding.
Sure. So if you tell me what space-time is, and then I'll explain it to you. If you can explain to me what space-time is, then I'll show you how it can be manipulated.
Oh, you think I believe in space-time? The ether that they took out, bro. That's space-time.
You don't need to believe it to explain what it is. I can explain what a unicorn is.
Yeah, you don't need to believe
the fabric of space-time?
Yes. Go ahead.
It's a concept. It's a concept. That's what it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Good.
So use it then.
talking about a literal objective physics answer, not just a concept that you can just paste on it and say, oh, warping in space-time explains how the planet could be accelerating towards both skydivers on the opposite sides of the ball. A real physics. Physics, do you understand the difference between dynamics and kinematics, Wesley?
Yeah, do you?
Yeah.
Okay, what's
Can
the
you
difference
explain it for me?
What's the difference between dynamics and kinematics since you brought it up?
Well, I asked you. You're supposed to tell me.
No,
It's
you
my
asked
question,
me.
not yours.
You asked me if I understood the. No, I don't understand the
Yeah, so
difference.
tell me the difference if you understand the
No,
difference.
I don't. Sorry. You're right. I don't understand the difference between dynamics and kinematics. Go ahead and explain it to me.
Okay. Well, the kinematics is going to deal with pretty much the mathematics, but it's going to deal with an explanation, right? It's not going to give you the forces that are involved. It's just going to be basically um, uh, a way of explaining it, not the why or how it does it. But you can do all this with like Kepler's stuff with the predictions and stuff. It's kinematics, right? You can make
Okay.
a solution and you can backwards derive these things with a mathematical solution. But then when you add the actual forces and masses in, then you have a dynamic explanation, right? Where you're
Okay.
actually explaining the different, like the bodies in motion and their relation to each other. That's the
Okay.
dynamics.
So the
So if you're going to
dynamics.
explain the dynamics of how the Earth
Yes.
could be accelerating towards both skydivers, that would be a dynamics answer we're looking for, not just
Okay.
a conceptual kinematic answer. Okay.
So the dynamics is that the mass bends space-time, and it bends it around the most dense objects. And so therefore the space-time is bent around the mass, and therefore you can be accelerating without actually moving because it's actually space-time that's being bent around you.
And how does that give us an objective physical dynamic explanation of how the Earth can be accelerating towards both skydivers at the same time?
I just literally explained it.
Saying that space-time warps around mass does not explain in an objective way the dynamics of the Earth actually accelerating towards both
No,
skydivers. There's
that's
no
exactly
there's no there's no explanation there other than the concept still.
no, that's exactly what happens. Mass bends space-time, and so it's not linear like you're thinking of it linearly. It's hard to think in 4D. I can't even barely
It's just
grasp it.
displacement.
It's
That's all it
yeah.
is. Displacement of the ether.
You're saying you have
That's
to
what he's trying
think
to
in
say.
4D. You're saying it's not a conceptual answer, but you have to think in 4D.
Yep.
Are you kidding me?
No, that's exactly what it
Relativity
is.
retardation, bro. This is relativity retardation.
That's called incredulity, but okay. I'm done. I'm done.
No, it's not incredulity if you're not explaining how something can objectively be accelerating in the opposite direction by just saying, oh, we're warping of space-time around mass. That doesn't explain how literally it could be going in two different directions at once.
It literally does,
Can
but go
I?
take
Can
a
I?
physics. Go take a physics course if you don't believe
Yeah,
me.
it's only
Dude, it's not
accelerating
about
in
that.
respect to. Yeah, it's only
Go
accelerating in
ahead,
respect to
Bacon.
space time, not in respect to the other side of Earth. Like compared to each other, the both sides of Earth are stationary, but we don't measure which one is stationary in relativity using the other side of Earth. We usually use space time, and because space time is shrinking towards Earth, then that's the direction in which the surface of the Earth is accelerating towards space time. Like you have to think about like if you just think about Newtonian mechanics, then the whole space, the whole 3D Euclidean space can be thought of as stationary or as inertial, right? So you use an Euclidean space to think about what it's inertial. On general relativity, the inertial thing is bending, right? So it's bending towards inside of Earth. So if you want to be inertial, you have to accelerate towards Earth just to be inertial, right? So but the surface of the Earth doesn't allow you to because you collide with it. So now you would be inertial if you were falling. In this case, you're not falling, you're being dragged by the surface of the Earth. So you have to be accelerating upwards because you're against the fabric of space-time, which defines inertia.
I think
Okay,
what
now
happened. That's what
pretend
I
everybody.
think what happened.
RJ, no, please
One
don't,
second.
please don't. No, you're not gonna do it. You're not
I
going to
just
start
did it on a
interrupting us right
large
now.
scale.
Please don't, dude.
I'm gonna.
Please don't interrupt right now.
What the
Bacon and
fuck?
I need to go back and forth about this. This is something that I don't
Dude,
have much
this
time.
is getting
I don't have much of a voice.
old.
But dude, you drag on, please, RG. Just give me a minute. Bacon, explain everybody in here like they're fourth graders, and that's not just about how you think about it or conceptual stuff. The dynamics, right? The physics of the Earth accelerating towards both skydivers on the opposite sides of the ball.
You can't explain it
I
to
don't
fourth
think I can
graders.
explain exactly. I can't explain GR to fourth
This
graders.
guy.
Well, explain it in a physics way with using physics, the dynamics, not just the think about it this way as an inertial
Well,
or thinking you have
Hang
to
on,
be,
hang on,
because of space
hey,
time. It
hang on.
literally has to be going in two different directions, which you realize the
No, it
contradiction I'm
doesn't.
pointing out.
No, it
Bacon,
doesn't.
can I just say one quick
How
thing?
could it be accelerating towards both skydivers
My
on the
son, my
opposite sides of the
17,
ball?
hold on a second. My 17-year-old son is in AP physics. He is not to this point yet. He would not be able to get it. There is a progression in physics. So you cannot jump from your fourth grade understanding to
They
relativity.
literally make a
It's
book
not about,
called General Relativity for Babies.
yeah, it's not about, I wasn't trying to like bring
Search
in
on
like, oh,
Amazon.
fourth graders could understand it. I'm talking about the literal dynamics, right? Not just think about it this way or
Oh,
talk about the concept.
right,
The
right.
concept of space time is a concept, right? You can't use concepts to give us the dynamics.
Well, I'm not sure how to explain you how curved space would work with just dynamics, because that's part of geometry too. Like,
But Bacon, you understand the problem here, right? Because we're saying that if for it to be accelerating towards both skydivers on the opposite side of the ball, it's an obvious contradiction that needs an explanation that
yeah,
in a very literal sense wouldn't seem to work at all, and the concept doesn't take care of it either.
yeah, it's obvious. Obviously, it doesn't make sense from a Newtonian paradigm, because a Newtonian paradigm is much more intuitive. So if you try to just think intuitively, you'll be thinking within a Newtonian paradigm, where of course that's not happening. That isn't happening in a Newtonian paradigm. You have to shift how you're thinking about what inertial means when you're talking about general relativity. And to make sense of what inertial means in general relativity, we have to think about curved spacetime. And curved spacetime is a bit of a mess to explain.
What
But
happened is you
I can
took it
try if
from
you
a
want.
small scale, to a large scale. Bending quote unquote the ether from falling out of a plane. Your body is displacing the ether. Now you guys took it to an extra level, like the Earth, sitting in the visualization of the fabric, right? And
Hey,
it
RG,
bends and
do you
warps.
understand the problem
That's what
that I'm
that's what
pointing
happened.
out?
Yes, yes,
Ether
yes,
doesn't
yes.
solve it, bro. The problem is we've
I'm
got
saying
two skydivers
they
on
put it
opposite
on a
sides of the
large.
ball,
I
and they're
know, I
saying the
know, I
Earth is
know,
accelerating in the opposite direction at the same time
I know,
because of
I
space
know.
time.
I get.
Can I
But
try
now you're
explain?
giving them the
Okay, so
out
what
because you're
they're.
meandering about ether and how ether can answer it when they don't
No,
have an
that's what
answer,
they
dude.
did.
Hang
No,
on,
they
hang on,
don't.
hang on.
But that's
Let me
what they
try.
Yo,
Hang
did.
on,
let
hang
New
Over
on.
Perspective
time,
have a go with these guys, man. Hold on, dude.
okay. So over time, they made
Yo,
the
let New
Earth big,
Perspective
big,
have a
big.
go. RG, let New Perspective have a
Yeah,
back
yeah.
and forth with these guys,
Okay.
please.
I mean,
What
hey,
happened?
Bacon, just by the way, the other day when you were arguing about the planes and all that, we've been through that many times. But you actually think that the plane is in the inertial and the non-inertial reference frame at the same time?
Yes. Well, we can get
Dude,
that after
so
we
the
get to
conservation
GR.
of momentum's a thing because why?
That doesn't have anything to do with conservation of momentum. Do you want to get into
Well,
GR
no, the
first?
reason they talk about conservation of momentum for the planes is because if it took off or if it was a helicopter that went straight up and came back down, the answer is because of the conservation of momentum, it stayed in sync with the Earth. But when it goes to a higher tangential velocity, there's nothing to make it go faster unless you're going to say the air accelerated it at the same exact speed as the Earth. But if that were the case, then you wouldn't have to talk about conservation of momentum because it would just automatically be in sync with the Earth no matter what it did if it went up in the air.
That's completely unrelated.
Dude, it's totally related.
Can I give you
How would the plane? Why would there even be a Coriolis effect if we didn't have two reference frames?
Can we get to GR first before we get there?
Well, I'm saying it's a related thing that you're talking about inertial frames. That's all I'm saying.
The fact that you think those two things are related shows why you won't be able to understand the
No,
dynamics.
you don't get, bro. You don't get it. You said inertial frames. You said inertial frames, bro.
Stop interrupting.
But you're straw manning. So I get to tell you you're straw manning.
All right, hang on.
Anyway, I've got to go soon. Bacon, go ahead though. I want to hear Bacon and how.
Yeah, I want to hear your YouTube video of how you roasted me and Bacon here.
I didn't roast you. What are you talking about? I haven't talked to you yet.
Hang on. Let's not diverge, okay? I'll try to give you my best explanation of how general relativity makes Earth accelerate against the skydivers, right? All right. So think of 3 people walking on a straight line on a flat surface, right? Parallel to each other. They're all walking side by side. They don't get closer to each other, right? They are walking in parallel paths, so their paths don't converge. They're just 3 people walking forward forever, right? You can picture that, right?
Yep.
Right. Now let's say they're not on a flat plane anymore. Now they are walking on the globe, and they're all walking towards the North Pole. So they all start at the equator. They're all aiming at the North Pole. They're all side by side, and it looks like they're going to start 3 parallel paths. But as they start walking, they actually start getting closer, right? Because like if you walk towards the north,
right,
of the globe,
because of the longitude lines, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So from the perspective of each one of those 3 people, they're just moving forward, and the other ones are getting closer to them. They're accelerating towards them, but they're not actually doing that. They're just trying to move towards the North Pole, but somehow they're still getting closer together, even though they're started all in parallel paths, right? So that would be similar to the effect of curvature in the space-time. Similarly, like if you're in space-time and space-time is bending, just following a geodesic in space-time brings you together to other masses because the masses bend space-time, right? You're following so far?
Yep.
All right, so the geometry of space-time is actually what's bringing them closer, not any force, not any, there's no force happening there. It's just the geometry of space-time. Okay, now, if I extend my arms, like let's say I'm the middle person, right? I'm the person in the middle of the other 2. I'm the one in between. And I extend my arms because I don't want those guys to get closer to me. If we start trying to walk towards the North Pole and I just keep my arms trying to stop them from getting close to me, just by all of us going towards the North Pole, they're going to have this tendency of getting closer to me, and my hands are going to keep pushing them away from me. So from that perspective, they're just trying to go straight to the North Pole. They're not trying to get closer to me, and my hand is pushing against them. So in their perspective, my hand is actually going towards them. It's not they that are moving towards my hand, right? But my hands are actually the ones that are losing track. My hands are not following a straight line towards the North Pole. My hand is accelerating away from the North Pole path. So my hands are analogous to the surface of the Earth. They're accelerating away from the geodetic path to the North Pole. And the 2 people who are trying to get to the North Pole in a geodesic path, which would be the 2 skydivers, are just trying to follow their geodesic path with no curvature, with no acceleration. But my hands keep pushing them away from the path that they want to be. So that doesn't mean my hands are expanding, right? And in this scenario, the surface of the Earth would be space-time. You're inertial if you're walking towards the North Pole. So those two guys are trying to be inertial. They're trying to go to the North Pole, but my hand keeps accelerating towards them. It's taking them away from their inertial path. My hands are actually changing latitude, not them. Sorry, changing longitude.
Yeah, I get the concept, but you realize it still doesn't answer the objective physics of it, right? Because you're talking about what they see, their perspective. It seems this way to one of them or the other, right? Even though it's not that way,
no,
right? So then you're dealing with one reference at a time again.
It is that way because what determines if you're inertial or not is the straight path to the North Pole. So if my hands are not in a straight path to the North Pole, which they're not, then they are not inertial, they're accelerating. So my hands are accelerating and I am not. I'm in the middle, so the center of the Earth isn't accelerating. That's why you'd be weightless there, according to general relativity. But my hands, which is the surface of the Earth, they are accelerating. Because they are deviating from the geodesic path. The geodesic path would be the inertial path.
That's an interesting way to explain the concept. But you realize it still doesn't answer how the literal Earth could be accelerating in the opposite direction at the same time.
Well, let's say I'm measuring let's say I'm measuring the changing longitude of my hand. The longitude of my hands are changing longitude increasingly faster as I go towards the North Pole. They started in fixed longitudes, but as I walk towards the North Pole, they start deviating from those longitudes, and they deviate more and more as I get closer to the North Pole. So if I'm measuring with longitude, so if I'm using the lines of longitude as a reference, then my hands are accelerating. And that's all general relativity is saying. It's telling you if you use space-time as a reference, then the surface is accelerating. It doesn't mean the surface is actually moving from the other side. So one side isn't accelerating in respect to the other side, but they're both accelerating in respect to space-time, because space-time is accelerating towards the center of the Earth.
Right, but you see that you've already started to do is if you use this as a reference, right? So then you start breaking it up into reference frames and dealing with one reference frame at a time to make it make sense.
Mean. But that is what physicists mean when they say that the Earth is accelerating upwards. They are talking about if you use space-time as a reference. That's what they're talking about.
Right.
Of course, if you use the surface
of the Earth, that's what I'm calling relativity retardation. Right. What I'm calling relativity retardation is if it's all about if you see it this way, it works this way. Or if you're in this reference frame, because what's the statement? Bacon, all reference, everything's valid in every reference frame.
Hang on. It's not retardation because in general relativity, it really matters which one is inertial because that's where the laws apply. Both general relativity and Newtonian mechanics, the laws are meant to describe inertial frames. So if you wanna say, for example, that the skydivers are accelerating downwards and the accelerating if you're saying the skydivers are accelerating downwards, then the laws of physics don't apply to the skydivers. It applies to the surface of the Earth that is stationary. So that's how Newtonian mechanics works. General relativity doesn't work like that. So you really want to know which observer is inertial, and in the case of general relativity, the skydivers are. And if they are inertial, that means the surface have to be accelerating. But that's in respect to space-time, because space-time is what defines who's inertial.
Bacon.
The point was it's one reference frame. I got to go, but it's one reference frame at a time, right? That you're dealing with, and it's all these are modes and methods of explaining different parts of it. Like you were talking with Jeremy earlier, you still think it's a good theory, even though it's not correct, right? And there's parts of it you can still be can be used, Newtonian physics and stuff, and it can be applied and in a practical way. And I get that, but when we're talking about like something that's literally impossible, as far as it literally accelerating in two different directions, right? That's not even possible. Conceptually, you can explain it through different methodologies, dealing with one reference frame at a time, and just taking one concept or another to try to explain it. But that's not good enough when we're talking about an objective dynamic physics reality.
Yeah, but that's not what physicist means. Like again, like what you just said, that okay, physics, these models of physics, they might work. The concept within the concept, it kind of makes sense, but that might not be what reality is. You're exactly right. General relativity doesn't have to be the right description of reality. The fact that it works better than Newtonian mechanics is why people use it. And within general relativity, the surface of the Earth would be accelerating upwards when you use the space-time as a reference. And that's all physicists are saying. They're not even. It's not even a claim that general relativity is the true description of reality anymore. If that's your argument, I agree with you.
Yeah, I know, but see, I think that the problem is people like Wesley, maybe I'm not sure, but people take a lot of this so literally that they think it's not just a conceptual explanation. This is reality, and it works just fine that the Earth could be accelerating in two different directions at once. But I mean, I can't explain it all. But warping the space time. If everybody took your approach to it, and it was just like, here's another model that could explain one part of it or this part of it, and you're kind of keeping an arm's length. But if you think a plane can fly from a tangential velocity of only 500 miles an hour and land where it's spinning 1,000 miles an hour and be in perfect sync and treat the Earth
Oh
as
my God.
stationary, that's a literal reality that happens every day. And I don't think that you believe that, Bacon. You're too smart for that. It's just a conceptual way of explaining it for you to say that the plane's in both reference frames at the same time, which is impossible.
Bacon, do you believe what he just said, that an airplane can't land and because the ground is moving at 1,000 miles per hour the opposite direction?
Yeah, because if it's facing
No, I'm
westward and it's
asking. I
moving
didn't
west
ask you. I
southwest from
asked.
a lower
Australia
tangential
understands
Bacon.
velocity,
that.
there's
I
no
asked
way it could.
Bacon.
There's no way the Earth's going to
Hey,
stop
New, is your
for the
name
pilot to
Bacon?
treat it as stationary.
New,
Go ahead, Bacon. You explain how that happens.
New,
How
is
does
your
the
name
plane?
New?
How does the plane land on
New, why
a
are you
place that's
talking?
a higher tangential velocity when it has to be going backwards? We've been through this before. How is
Yeah,
the
New,
plane
you don't
moving
understand
backwards in
it.
perfect sync with the higher tangential velocity of the ground, Bacon? Explain that
New,
to us right now.
New. When I asked Bacon, I wasn't talking
I
to
know
you.
you asked him, but I just asked him as well. Go ahead, Bacon.
Yeah.
I
Do
don't
you
even know
think?
what the question is.
Yeah, or Bacon.
Okay,
Do
so
you
the
think?
plane flies. Just shut up for a sec,
Hang on.
Wesley.
No, you
The
shut up
plane
for a
flies from
second.
500 mile per hour, right? It's got a conserved momentum of 500 miles per hour where it took off from initially, right? Now it's going to fly to the equator. He's got no path in mind. He's just a joyriding pilot. He's going generally west southwest, and he's going to land somewhere around the equator. He doesn't even have a destination. It's going to be a field somewhere, right? And he's going to land and treat the Earth as stationary. But how is he doing that? How's the plane in sync where it's a 500 mile per hour difference from where he took off to where he's landing miscellaneously around the equator, going west southwest against the spin the whole time, and landing in the opposite direction of the spin of the Earth? What keeps him in sync with the Earth 500 miles per hour faster than where he took off?
Because the atmosphere moves
No, not
with
you,
you.
Wesley.
No,
Bacon.
I know it's an easy answer.
If you're going to say the atmosphere had the torque to put the plane, even when it's
Torque?
going a different, yeah, the torque to
You
keep
don't
the plane
understand
in sync with
physics.
the Earth, you
You
think
don't
the
understand law
air,
model.
they know,
Hang
Wesley,
on.
you understand that winds
It's
go
not
in all
hard.
directions, right? The atmosphere and the winds, you have to separate them. The
No,
atmosphere is not
you don't.
carrying the plane backwards
No, you
500
don't.
miles per hour faster. If you think that would happen, then you don't understand anything.
No.
Okay,
The
so what's
atmosphere is
carrying the
moving with.
plane backwards at the
How do you
same
not?
speed that the Earth is rotating?
How do you
What is
not
the
know that the
mechanism?
atmosphere is moving with the Earth? How do you not know that?
They don't even claim the atmosphere is in perfect sync with the Earth. So even if that were possible, it's not good enough.
Okay, that's why you don't understand physics.
No, the reason that we have the weather conditions and all that is because they say the atmosphere is not in sync with the surface of the Earth. So even if it were the answer, that's not even possible. It's
Okay,
not good enough.
then how come you can't feel 500 miles per hour wind moving against you when you're on the ground?
Because the Earth is stationary, bro. Yeah.
Okay,
That
bro.
sounds so funny to you, but other people are laughing about you laughing about that.
Thanks, Bob.
Whatever that means.
Right.
Bacon, can we hear from you on the answer for this that you don't have?
Well, I mean, Wesley asked me a question, and then you started asking me a question, and then he answered your question to me. So I don't even know what you guys want me to answer anymore.
What's your answer to the plane landing where he has no direction,
Right,
no
right, right.
course whatsoever? He's got no destination. He lands somewhere miscellaneously along the equator where it's moving 500 miles per hour faster than where he took off. He went west southwest the whole time, and he's landing at an angle, against the spin. And the plane's going to be in perfect sync for him to treat it as stationary still, right? Or is he going to have to land on a moving surface?
No, he won't have to worry about the rotation of the Earth if that's essentially
So
what
then
you're
what
asking.
accelerates the plane eastward 500 miles per hour faster without the pilot knowing it?
Well, as he gets closer to the equator, the velocity of the atmosphere is going to be increasing it too, right? If he
Yeah,
doesn't
but it's
keep up
not in
with
sync
that,
with the Earth. It's not in perfect sync with the Earth. And he has to
well,
land on
it doesn't
perfectly
matter.
stationary. He lands, he treats it as perfectly stationary. Even if you really thought the atmosphere was carrying the plane backwards at 500 miles per hour faster than where he took off from, Even if you think that's true, it's not good enough.
No, nobody thinks that's
Why
true.
not?
This guy
Because it's
is
not in sync.
crazy,
The
right?
claim of the globe Earth is the atmosphere is not in perfect sync with the Earth.
Yeah, hang
Well,
on,
it's
hang
not
on.
in perfect sync.
Let me
You're
How,
hang
right.
on.
how much is it
Yeah,
out
but
by?
There's
the
turbulence.
landing has to
Yeah,
be perfect.
there's
The landing
turbulence.
has to be perfect.
Yeah, well, there's turbulence and winds, and
Non-perfect
plane
landings
the
cause
plane has
crashes.
the plane has power and control surfaces.
And
Yeah.
and and you don't have to land perfectly. That's the point of a runway
Yes,
in the
you
safety
do.
zone.
The
Nope, nope.
pilot never deals with a moving runway. If it were
It doesn't
moving
matter.
just
They don't
one
have to
mile per
land.
hour different than his tangential velocity eastward, there would be problems. And it
You're
would be
right.
a
So
lot
You're
more
right.
than that.
Yeah, they
so
are
you
in.
don't.
They yeah.
Hang on, hang on.
Wait. Hold
Like,
on one
hang
second.
on.
Hold on one second. He said he had to land perfectly. That's patently false. There's so much air
Yeah,
margin.
don't try to conflate winds. Winds have nothing to do with Earth rotation. Two different things, not the same.
Hang on.
He had to deal with winds as well as Earth rotation. That would be two things to deal with, not one. Don't conflate the winds with the Earth rotation. Not the same.
Yeah,
Well,
you're
it
right.
is
He
if
does
they're
not
not
have to
aligned.
deal with Earth's rotation. Correct.
Because it's not rotating.
Nope, I didn't say that.
Well, then how is he in sync with a 500 mile per hour higher tangential velocity eastward?
Because he has engines and power.
Oh, so he's doing a 500 mile per hour eastward acceleration on purpose? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, okay. If he started up in the north and he's heading down to the equator, it's going to take him like 15 hours, 16 hours. Yeah, he can do that with just a couple of mile an hour acceleration. Yeah, not a big deal.
Yeah, but you don't. No, you don't see the problem. He went west southwest. He did big loops all over the place. He doesn't even have a destination. He's not correcting for anything. He's a joyriding pilot. He's gonna go generally west southwest. He's gonna land in a clearing wherever he finds. He's got no destination to correct for, but he's gonna still be able to treat the Earth as perfectly stationary wherever he lands. No flight path in mind. So how the hell is the plane going eastward 500 miles per hour faster when he went west southwest against the spin the whole time, and he's landing in the opposite direction? Silence tells it all, doesn't it? The silence is all I really needed.
Because these
Well, then
because
you shouldn't
these
have to come to a. You shouldn't have come to a voice channel. That's
Yeah,
the worst place to
the
find silence. There's people speaking here all the time.
yeah,
Yeah, but
it's
nobody has an answer for that. Shoebill, go ahead with your answer. He's not correcting to try to go faster eastward. He's going the opposite direction. He's a joyriding pilot. He's got no path to correct for. How's the plane going 500 miles per hour faster directly eastward so that he's in perfect sync with wherever he decides to
He
land?
doesn't have to be in perfect sync. If he has
Oh,
any
so you're saying he would land on a moving
hang on,
surface?
let me finish.
Yes.
We're good. Hang on.
No, that
If
never happens.
Jesus
Ever.
Christ, let me finish my response to your question. Okay, let's say you put an airplane in perfect sync, like pointing towards the forgot what's the name of the thing where you land the plane? The
Landing strip.
Runway.
Right. Okay,
Yeah, but it's just a field. It's just a clearing. He's just going to find a random spot. Right?
hang on. I just wanted the word.
No destination.
Okay, landing strip. What was the word? Strip.
Landing
Right.
strip, yeah.
Right. Okay, so he's aligned with the landing strip. If you add a velocity, like say a sideways velocity to the airplane, the net velocity is just gonna be like pointing towards the wrong direction. So that's gonna change the heading of the airplane. So he won't be moving. It's not like he's trying to move forward and he's moving towards the side. He's just gonna have a slightly deviated heading towards one side. So all he has to do is correct his heading. Like airplanes have to correct for the heading when they're trying to land. It happens all the time.
But not to account for the Earth's rotation, bro.
Well, it doesn't matter the cause or reason. Like it's not like
It does.
they can see. No. I'm saying like from the point of view of the airplane, it doesn't say okay this much deviation in heading you're seeing right now is because of the rotation of the Earth. Obviously, you're not gonna have that in your airplane. You just see whether your heading is matching where you want to be or not, and if it's not, you're gonna correct for it.
No, he's landing in a random clearing wherever he wants, whatever he decides, has nothing to do with correcting for any kind of destination, right? That's my point. He's going west southwest against the spin, but
Okay.
the plane now has to be going directly eastward, 500 miles per hour faster than where he took off from. What's the mechanism that makes the plane go backwards and sideways to be in perfect sync when he's landing at that angle, west southwest, aiming in a kind of a kitty corner angle towards the spin? What's making the plane in perfect sync with the rotation of the Earth that's 500 miles per hour more than where he took off? What's the mechanism?
Yeah. Trying to fly straight is going to be the mechanism. Like if
He
the
went against the
airplane,
spin. He's not trying to do anything.
well,
He's
yeah,
just a
but
joyriding pilot. He's not trying to do anything.
if we assume for a second that what you're suggesting happens, these consequences are obvious. Like let's say the airplane is moving straight. Let's go with an easier example. Like we're going just south.
No. Stick to my example.
Well, yours just makes it more complicated to explain. The same idea works here.
Well, it's complicated to explain because it's impossible to explain. You
No,
have
it's
no
not. It's
mechanism
because
that's
now
going
we
to
have
make the plane in perfect sync with a 500 mile per hour faster surface. What's the
Okay,
mechanism, Bacon? He's not correcting. He's not doing it with his engines. The atmosphere is not carrying the plane backwards as he's moving forward to slow down to land. That's insane if you believe that.
I'm lost a little bit.
What? So how's the pilot going to treat the Earth as stationary like they're all taught to when he's got no path to correct for? He's got no destination, but the Earth is moving 500 miles per hour faster than where he took off. How is he going to be in sync?
What you're describing is a 45
What's the
degree
mechanism?
southeast rum line, and that's something like sailors were doing as well. So when you go from latitude to latitude, your engine is going relative to the Earth. So your constant movement is constantly adjusting every
No, he's got no ground path to adjust for. You just get here. There's no ground path to adjust for that makes the plane go any faster eastward. He's a joyriding pilot. He's doing big loops over many different latitudes. He's got no destination in mind, but he ends up around the equator, which is 500 miles per hour faster surface than where he took off from. But he's still going to treat the Earth just as perfectly stationary because we know all planes always do that no matter what. How is the plane moving backwards and sideways 500 miles per hour faster than where he took off from? What's the mechanism that makes that happen?
There's not one. Hey guys, y'all have a good night. Happy holidays, man.
Later, bro.
Bless.
Merry
Don't
Christmas,
brother.
exist, and saying my straw
All
man
right,
doesn't
Anvil.
work.
What? It's not a straw man. Joyriding pilots could do that whenever they want. The Wright brothers, or whoever after that, they just took planes out and they landed wherever they wanted, treated the Earth as perfectly stationary. They never had to worry about any INS or any kind of catching up to the Earth to make sure it's stationary when they land on it. And they could do wherever they don't even need a destination. They can land in a field and they're always going to be able to treat it as stationary, even though the ground is said to be moving tangentially 500 miles per hour faster than where they took off. What's the mechanism that would still make the plane in sync, no matter what he did?
You're saying this particular person started at like 80 degrees north or something. So the rotational
He started where the Earth is only moving 500 miles per hour, right? So even if you say he's got the 500 mile per hour eastward conserved momentum, he doesn't have enough to be in sync with a 1,000 mile per hour place that he might be landing at. Maybe it's 1,007. He doesn't know. He's just going to land, treat it as stationary. What makes the plane in sync with the Earth?
the atmosphere.
Wesley left. I see Shoebill left. I wonder why.
Can I try? Let me give my attempt here. Okay, so let's do your complicated path, right? So we are 45 degrees north, going southwestwards.
No, he's just going randomly all over the place. He's going like big loops, He even went back to where he started because he thought he forgot something, but then he went back and then decided he didn't really need it. And then he ended up
Right.
somewhere around the equator. There's no path in mind. There's no numbers I can give you. It's just a
Okay.
random thing, but it's about 500 miles per hour. It's just around 500, probably faster than where he took off from. But he's going to still be able to treat the Earth as stationary wherever he decides to randomly land. How's that possible?
Okay, right. If you assume that that doesn't happen, just to see what happens. Let's say we assume that it doesn't get in sync with the surface. As he is going, let's say, closer to the equator, and the surface starts to speed up below him. At this point, he's like flying sideways. Airplanes can't fly sideways, right? There has to be like extreme wind for that to happen.
They can't fly backwards either, right?
That's right. But that's relative to the wind, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, you got winds going in all directions, right? So you can't
Sorry,
count on
yeah,
the winds.
relative to the air. Like the velocity of the airplane for the airplane to fly, that depends on the velocity against the air. Like if there's a wind blowing on an airplane as fast as the airplane is supposed to fly, he can fly by just standing on like
Yeah,
without
there's no
moving, right?
consistency to the air. There's no consistency to the air that he could rely on. He's got to just rely on wherever he wants to go, flying aimlessly all over the.
Yeah, so like if he starts changing latitude and he starts getting out of sync with the surface, that would mean he's getting like sideways winds. So that won't
Wait, hold
last.
on, wait. When would he ever notice that he's out of sync with the Earth? Does that ever happen?
Well, when like if you start getting wind messing with where you're trying to go, you're gonna counter that.
No, I'm saying it's not. He doesn't have a destination. Why would he think he's out of sync with the Earth? Why would he notice that?
I'm talking
Why
about
would
the
that ever
scenario.
happen?
Well, because that's
Yeah, in the
the assumption.
scenario, he's never going to see the Earth moving separately eastward compared to his plane. That he's going to have to then worry about the plane moving eastward at the same rate, right?
Yeah,
It's
we're
not a
just
concern
playing.
of his. No pilot's ever taught to worry about the Earth moving
That
faster
doesn't matter.
eastward than the plane is. It
Yeah,
does
that doesn't
matter
matter. No,
because if
but
that happened, they would have to worry about it, right?
no, they wouldn't have to worry about it. I mean,
Well,
when
because
they're
it's
when
stationary. That's the only reason they wouldn't have to if it's only stationary. Otherwise, they would be out of sync and they'd be fucked.
they wouldn't be fucked because they
Yeah, they
wouldn't
would
wait
because
like
they would never be able to catch up when they're slowing down to land. If the Earth's
no.
moving faster than you
Hang on.
eastward, right?
Let's try to have a big.
How are you gonna slow down to land and land on a surface that's moving eastward faster than your plane is? You can't just like accelerate backwards. He's aiming west. He's aiming against the spin. How's the
Yeah,
plane gonna be moving backwards 500 miles per hour faster, but slowing down to a stop in the other direction?
Okay, give me a scenario. Let's play slowly. Where's the starting position and where the
No, he's
pilot's
got
starting?
no destination. That's the point, Bacon.
Okay,
You need to have
but
a
it
destination
changes.
and a flight path
Hang on.
that
If
you
you're
can
going east,
excuse the whole thing
oh
with,
my
but
god.
I'm not going to give it to you. It's random, dude. He just went 500 mile per hour around
Yeah, but if
that,
you don't give scenario,
randomly
I
in a
won't.
field, no destination, no scenario specifics at all. We know he's
That
going to be
but
able
that
to treat it
matters.
stationary. In fact, if he didn't,
You just don't
if he
stop
did
talking.
notice that he's out of sync, he just like take a camera and show that the Earth is actually rotating. I mean, if this could ever happen, you guys could prove the Earth rotates. Is my point.
yeah, because we don't treat planes like they're on bullet trajectories. We know that they steer against wind. So we call it lockstep, but it's not perfect. But the atmosphere at about 60 degrees north would be around that 500 mile an hour mark, and towards the equator would be about 1,000. So, like going from a fast moving stream to a slow moving stream, that plane is just going through like a viscous fluid. So the entire
No,
time he's
you got winds going in all directions, bro. You could have a heavy westward wind moving you all the opposite direction. How is the atmosphere going to move the plane 500 miles per hour directly eastward consistently enough that the pilot can always just treat it as stationary, like we know they're only trained to do?
the air is a viscous material that does put forces in the plane on.
Yeah,
And
it can
every
push them in the
2
opposite
seconds,
direction. It doesn't just push them in one direction. The wind's going all directions. So what are you saying?
all the time simultaneously, that's a bit disingenuous to say like every
No, I
millimeter
didn't
of the
say
surface
all
of
winds
the
are going in
aircraft
all
is
directions all the
inside a
time.
cyclone
What a straw
surrounded by
man what I'm saying. That doesn't work. I'm saying the wind can go in any direction at any given time. Is that better?
Yeah, but during that one moment of time, it's usually in one direction, not two directions simultaneously.
I
Because when
never
two
said it
things,
was. I
yeah,
never said there
that's
was
a
winds going two directions simultaneously. I never said
all
that.
right. So there's like a net force. So when you get
Yeah,
this,
but net force, an average amount of air going in one direction is not good enough. We're talking about a pilot that has to safely land all these people, and he's always going to be able to treat the Earth as stationary, even if it's moving faster than where he took off from. And he had no plan in mind of where he was going, no direction, and the winds were going all over the place the whole time. How is the plane in sync with the Earth? In perfect sync, which the atmosphere is not even said to be, even though that doesn't really solve your problem either.
well, you got to differentiate what is the atmosphere, what is a jet stream, what is a wind current, and so
Yeah, you got to differentiate. They're all different things, right? They don't act in
yeah,
one uniform way. There's no predicting any of it,
yeah, at
right?
your
And he's got to
particular
land perfectly
location.
on a perfectly stationary surface without any kind of winds to depend on because they go in all directions.
Yeah, just because they can go in all directions doesn't mean that they are simultaneously. And
I
so
never said that. Don't straw man me again. I never said all winds are going in all directions simultaneously. I said they could be going in any direction, so there's no way to depend on the wind or the air or the atmosphere to make him in perfect sync with a 500 mile per hour faster
you
surface.
do depend on the wind. If it's too much crosswind, the side of the plane is being hit
Not
and is
saying he
not
depends on the.
dynamically.
Yeah, that's not depending on the wind. He's got to deal with winds. That's not depending on the wind to make his plane in sync with a moving surface.
Hey, so you don't think planes can land on aircraft carriers then, right?
Yeah, see, now you're comparing it to an aircraft carrier where the pilots have to be specially trained to just land on something that's slightly drifting, right? And those are pilots that are specially trained, and sometimes they have to swing around and try again if they're not lined up perfectly. We don't
Okay,
train regular
so
pilots that way.
then
You know
then
why? Because the
they
Earth isn't
can
moving
land
like an
on
aircraft carrier.
slightly
If the
planes.
Earth were moving like an
Why
aircraft
can't
carrier,
they
that would be a good
do
point.
on
But the Earth isn't
testing,
moving like an
testing, one,
aircraft
two,
carrier. Go
three,
ahead, Wesley.
testing.
Are you just talking
So
through me? The
so
Earth is not moving
then
like an
why can't
aircraft carrier. You want a better example to give?
so then if they can land on something that's slightly moving, then why can't they land on something that's slightly out of sync with the Earth's atmosphere?
But they never do. They would have to be trained to do that, like aircraft carrier pilots are trained. No regular pilot is trained to deal with a slightly drifting runway, like an aircraft carrier is. That's my point. What's yours now?
Wait, you
The crosswinds happen, and
Crosswinds are not the same thing as a moving surface. They're
stop
two different things.
interrupting.
If you
Stop
had to deal with a
interrupting.
moving surface as well as a crosswind, that would be two things. I just want to make sure that's clear before you
No,
make your
stop
point you're about to make.
interrupting. You always interrupt. It's so annoying. Stop
I'll
interrupting.
stop.
Back.
Go ahead.
Anvil was
Go
talking.
ahead. What were you going to say about crosswinds? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm listening. Not interrupting, I promise. Who has the answer? I'll wait.
the air is like viscous and puts forces on the plane at all moments of time. Sometimes the forces are increased, sometimes they're decreased. And so when the plane is going through this material, that material is closely going to Earth. Yes, there are crosswinds, but they're going 45 knots on top of that. And so if you fly in the opposite direction or not, it there's still like I have to try to talk like let's say you've got a long stick and each one has a spinning top. If you rotate the stick, you can keep all the spinning tops in alignment. And no matter if there's like the further outreach of the arm is moving at a fast speed, the rotation is of the Earth is like less than 1 RPM. Like that's the kind of like forces you have to deal with. Like, and no, the pilots don't have to deal with a force that's 1 RPM because when people are talking about the globe and like 1,044 or 1,030 miles per hour, past what? And I don't know if flat earthers know. I think they're falsely comparing like the Earth as if it's a jet that's flying through air.
No, that was no false comparison. It's just what the globe model says, where there's a tangential velocity gradient where it's said to be moving fastest at the equator, 1,000 miles an hour, right? So my scenario is the joyriding pilot takes off from a place where it's only moving 500 miles an hour. So even if he kept that conserved momentum, he's not going to have the 1,000 mile per hour directly eastward tangential velocity to make sure he can treat the Earth as stationary when he randomly gets to a place that he flew against the spin towards to get to, So he's just randomly flying all over the place, and then he ends up around the equator, and he treats the Earth as stationary in a random spot he decides to land. How's the plane moving eastward directly in sync with the Earth that's moving 500 miles per hour faster? I mean, there's no false comparison. That's what the globe model says must happen.
Because that jet stream and stuff is also rotating with the Earth. That's why they kind of describe it as a jet, because it's like having like spaghetti in a rotating bowl. Sure, the rotating bowls, but the links of spaghetti are more or less in the same pattern. So whether there's a jet stream assisting you or resisting you, it's all communating with that like Coriolis rotation. So yeah, that tangential speed.
What did you just say? Spaghetti? You're gonna so pretend like my nephew wants to be a pilot, and he heard me talking about this tangential velocity gradient, and now he's worried. He's like, how am I going to stay? They just told me to always treat it as stationary. They didn't tell me anything about making sure I'm in sync with the Earth. How would you tell him that's okay?
Mostly the air stays with you, and when it's
mostly,
he's
going to mostly land safely. He can't mostly land safely. He's got to treat it as stationary, perfectly stationary, no matter what happens with the winds going in all directions. How are you explaining that his plane's going to be moving 500 miles per hour faster, be in perfect sync, no matter what? There's no mechanism. It wouldn't work, bro. That's my point.
It's just like saying I can't throw my dart through a hairdryer and hit bullseye. Like
what? Dart through a hairdryer and spaghetti? Yeah. That's what you got? You got spaghetti and hairdryers? That's what you're going to tell my nephew pilot that's scared to fly because he doesn't know how the plane's going to be going eastward 500 miles per hour faster perfectly no matter what because of hair dryers and spaghetti?
Did your nephew told you about spaghettis and hair dryer while talking about flying an airplane on the Earth? I mean...
I wouldn't let him fly. If that's what he was going off with, that kind of knowledge, I'd be like, dude, do not try to fly.
Because you're asking me to explain something to a nephew, not someone who misconstrues tangential something or other velocity.
I didn't misconstrue a thing. I gave you the globe model scenario. They say it's 500 miles per hour faster at the equator than where he took off from. That's the tangential gradient. That's part of the globe model. And the plane's in a separate reference frame. The only reason they talk about conserved momentum when you jump up in the air or take a helicopter up in the air and hover is because you were on the Earth and you conserve the momentum of the Earth. But if you only conserve the 500, how are you going to get the extra 500 when you get to the equator when you're just randomly flying all over the place, not correcting for anything, not trying to be in sync. But the Earth is going to be moving 500 miles per hour faster, and he's always going to be able to treat it as stationary. And there's no wind that's going to move the plane or anything backwards while he's landing to keep it in sync. There's nothing like that. There's no mechanism. You can pretend there is, or you can act like the viscous air or is like spaghetti and a dart through a hairdryer makes sense. But it doesn't. That's nonsense, bro.
Is it meatball? Is it meatball spaghetti?
I think it's meatball spaghetti viscous air. Viscous meatball air.
Yeah, but how does meatball spaghettis work on a globe dart?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how the meatball spaghetti works on a globe dart.
Really, don't worry about it much. His flight instructor will explain it to him. Trust me.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. We got a new one here. Bacon left. Wesley left. Blue Marble, what's your answer? How is the plane going to be in sync with 1,000 miles an hour tangential velocity eastward directly when he's just randomly flying anywhere? He doesn't have any direction in mind. He's going to land in a clearing wherever he feels like it, but it's about a 500 mile per hour difference. How is the plane going to be in perfect sync so the pilot can always treat the Earth as stationary like he's always trained to?
Well, the plane's going to be in sync with the air it's flying in. That's the easy answer.
So the air moves them backward even though the wind's going all directions.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all the airplane
You can't
knows.
just take an
The airplane
average.
only
You can't
knows.
take an average.
If you want to be quiet for a second, I'll explain it.
Well, go ahead. We want the real dynamic answer. The mechanism.
Tell me when you're done.
I'm done. I'm just making sure you know it's the mechanism. It's not just like generally the atmosphere generally moves eastward with the, even though it's not even said to be in perfect sync, so it wouldn't be good enough. So the atmosphere is not the answer, right? Unless you really believe that, and then it wouldn't be perfect anyway, and he would crash land.
We know it's not in perfect sync. We got wind, right? Sometimes you got wind. Sometimes you don't have wind.
Right? There you go.
So the atmosphere,
there's no answer.
So the atmosphere isn't in perfect sync, but that's okay. The airplane can account for that. Not a problem.
No, he's not correcting for the Earth rotation. The winds and the Earth rotation are two separate things.
Well,
the atmosphere is not
he doesn't need to account for the Earth's rotation. I'm just going to talk over the top of you too. He doesn't need to account for the Earth's rotation because the atmosphere accounts for the Earth's rotation. That's the answer.
But it's not in perfect sync. It's not in perfect sync.
It doesn't matter if it's in perfect sync or not.
It does, because he treats the Earth as perfectly stationary. He treats the Earth as perfectly stationary, not just almost stationary. He treats it as perfectly stationary. Oh yeah, he never accounts for Earth rotation. Never. Winds are not the same thing as Earth rotation.
But he's asking you for the mechanism. You're saying that on paper, counts. You're talking about counts on paper, but perspective is asking you about the mechanism that causes all of this that is on the.
Yeah, what makes the plane go backwards as he's landing facing westward? What's carrying the plane backwards?
The plane is not going backwards. Stop saying the plane's going backwards.
Listen,
the plane is moving
west.
Planes don't fly backwards.
Dude, Dave.
No, exactly. So that's my point. Real quick, I'll let you go. I'm just saying he wouldn't be going backwards if he's aiming westward. He lands. The plane would have to be going eastward, backwards, in perfect sync for him to treat it as stationary. That's my point.
All right, now let someone respond without being clipped, please. Now no one wants to talk.
Go ahead, Blue Marble. You know he'd have to be going backwards if he's aiming west when he lands.
No, buddy, I'm done talking to you. I'm done being talked over. So you just go ahead and with your diatribe, whatever you want.
Convenient time to say that, isn't it?
Yeah, I just jumped into mod to try to clear the space so you wouldn't be interrupted.
He's done this like 20 times tonight already, where he just talks over people that are trying to answer him. So it's annoying, and it's happened before.
I haven't had any answers. I've given people plenty of time to come up with a mechanism that makes the plane in perfect sync, even if he's facing west when he's landing. He's got to be going backwards 500 miles per hour faster than when he took off. Yeah. I will shut up. Go ahead. Give your answer.
The plane moves relative to the airspeed, and the airspeed moves relative to the Earth, and that's why you do get crosswinds, like when you get heating of the oceans to have a high pressure and then a low pressure. That high pressure wants to equalize, and that's how you get wind. And so this whole mixture of atmosphere is the force that's keeping not just the wings up with an upward lift. The entire motions that the planes go through is going from one vector to another. And as he goes from where you're saying about 500 kilometer hours, which is about 60 degrees north, and he does a whole bunch of random things through random different effects. He's also landing in different conditions, which have all happened in the air around him, which he's been piloting against for the last 10 hours or whatever he's been doing.
I'm asking for a specific mechanism. Was there a specific mechanism you were just explaining how things work? You weren't really explaining how that plane would be in sync. You didn't give a mechanism, did you?
It's been given to you. You're just not listening to it.
Okay, go ahead. I'll listen. Go ahead, Blue Marble. What's the mechanism?
Again, the mechanism is very, very straightforward. The airplane doesn't know anything about the speed the Earth is spinning at. The airplane only knows how fast it's moving through the air it is in. If the air that it's in is generally in sync with the rotation of the Earth, as far as the airplane knows, it's not moving.
How is it synced? What is the mechanism of the synchronism? What is the step-by-step that causes the synchronization?
Oh, you want to know why the atmosphere is in sync with the Earth? Well, friction.
No, the airplane. You're saying it's in sync with the Earth spinning at a certain speed, so there's a sync that the airplane doesn't detect or need to be aware that the ground under it is spinning at 1,000 miles per hour under it.
The airplane only knows how fast it's moving through the air it's in. That's all. It doesn't know anything else.
You admitted that the atmosphere is not in sync. You're saying the atmosphere is not in perfect sync. And my point was, he lands as if, it can't be generally as if stationary. He treats the Earth as perfectly stationary, and the atmosphere is not perfectly in sync, so it wouldn't even work, even if that were a mechanism that would work.
Well, that's simply not true. We don't treat it as if it's the air as if it's perfectly stationary. We know there's wind. I've landed a lot of airplanes in 30 mile an hour, 30 knot crosswinds. I know there's wind up there. I've done it.
Stationary. That perspective. He's saying the air is not stationary. That's obvious. But the ground, the airplane is treating it as stationary.
Yeah, the surface, Blue Marble, not the air. Don't conflate it with the air or the winds. The surface, he treats it as perfectly stationary, but the atmosphere is not in perfect sync with it. That's my point.
And you have to correct for wind.
Yeah, but the wind and the surface moving, which I said many times, this is why I keep interrupting, because people are trying to say the winds are the same thing as Earth rotation. They're not. They're two different things. He had to deal with winds as well as surface moving different, then his plane is going eastward. That would be two things to deal with. So he treats the Earth as perfectly stationary, and it has nothing to do with the winds moving him in all directions.
That's simply not how we teach people.
Yeah, let me give a quick metaphor. When you jump in an airplane, you don't care what the wind is doing outside of it or the atmosphere is doing outside of it. You can jump and you can land without considering that. That's the same thing what the airplane's doing.
That's totally not the same thing. The plane has to treat the Earth as stationary. If it were going eastward perpendicular to his landing, right, the wheels would break off at the very least. Because the Earth is moving eastward at a different speed than the plane is.
No, it's not.
You get that? Even if the atmosphere were doing it perfectly, the atmosphere is not in perfect sync. So even if the atmosphere carried him, it wouldn't be good enough.
Let's make the atmosphere be perfectly in sync and talk about that.
That would be nice, wouldn't it? That would be like totally against the whole point.
Take off with no wind, fly to the equator, and land there with no wind. Now, how fast is the atmosphere? Is it moving the same speed?
That's the
speed
problem,
is zero, right?
The speed is zero. You can think of it as moving in perfect sync, or you can think of it as stationary. But the only way it would work consistently is if it's stationary, because we got winds moving in all directions.
You might. Maybe not.
Yeah, so there's nothing to make the plane in sync at a 500 mile per hour faster tangential velocity eastward.
Sure it is. The air mass that the plane is flying in, which is the only thing the airplane knows. The airplane
It's
doesn't know
not
a damn
said to be
thing
in sync enough.
about the
It's
ground.
not
The
even in
ground,
sync enough.
the airplane only knows the air mass it's flying in. That's it. Nothing else.
Right, and that air mass isn't perfectly in sync, so he'd never be in perfect sync.
Because of a wind. So what?
Right. So
What?
he would have to crash land or somehow figure out how to land on a moving surface, which they never have to do.
Well, you have to do it every time you land, buddy.
No, the surface is never moving relative to the plane's eastward movement. There's never an eastward movement
I will
that's different,
guarantee.
right? The winds are different than the Earth moving. Dealing with winds, cross winds, and dealing with the Earth moving would be two things to deal with, not one.
No, they appear exactly the same to you
No, they do
as a
not.
pilot.
The
Yes, they
Earth
would.
moving is totally different. You could have
You
westward
cannot tell.
winds
You would not be
with an
able to
eastward
tell.
moving.
You would
You have
not be able to
westward
tell the
winds.
difference if you were landing in a crosswind. You would not be able to tell the difference in landing in no crosswind and the Earth moving, or the Earth stationary and the crosswind. There's
You
no
sure
difference.
would.
No,
You
there's
sure would, because
absolutely no
you could
difference.
have wind.
There
Listen,
is
when they
absolutely
deal
no
with
difference.
crosswinds, I'll just tell you this: if they're dealing with crosswinds trying to land on a surface, right? They better be glad that surface isn't moving, because they'd be dealing with two things. Now the crosswinds, you're trying to, like, get your planes lined up. You got these winds blowing in all directions, but then the fucking runway's moving eastward faster than the plane is. So now that's two things to deal with. You know
No,
it's not. You
the
can just
plane.
act like it's the same,
The
but that's
plane
my
is
point.
only
You really
the
think
plane
they're the
only knows
same.
the air.
I don't know. I can't help you.
I can't help you. Apparently, the plane only knows the air mass it's flying in. That's all. And you would not be able to distinguish the difference if you're flying an airplane trying to
Sure
land
would.
on a runway and you have a crosswind. You would not distinguish the difference between the airplane flying straight and the Earth moving, or the Earth standing still and the airplane moving sideways. It's exactly
Well,
the same thing.
this is why aircraft carrier pilots have to be specially trained, because they deal with both things. They
Actually,
have to land on something that's drifting, as well as the winds that are knocking him off the course from trying to hit the drifting thing. Right? You never have a drifting surface for regular pilots.
It's actually a little easier on an aircraft carrier, because guess what? That runway can turn itself into the wind. They don't land in
And it's
crosswinds.
totally different things. It's two things to
They
deal
do
with,
not
right?
land in crosswinds.
That's two things to deal with, not just one.
That's why I
Aircraft
mentioned
carrier pilots are specially trained because they have two things to deal with. So you can't say it's the same.
that's why we mentioned like a net direction. If there's like 5 kilometers an hour one way and 10 kilometers an hour the other, the net has a direction, and so every 5 feet, every inch, effectively throughout the entire flight, the net forces are going with the Earth, more or less.
Yeah, he can't more or less land safely. He has to land safely no matter what, because those people are dependent on him landing on what he always just treats it as stationary. He's never trained to deal with a moving surface as well as crosswinds, like aircraft pilots are. You have to be more or less in sync. You have to be perfectly in sync, and there's never a problem because the Earth is freaking stationary.
Really?
If there's a 10 knot wind, it's not synchronous with the Earth. It's what is it? Instead of 1,037 miles per hour, it's 1,047 miles per hour. That's just making a 10 mile an hour difference correction. And what can you do in a plane? Make a 10 mile an hour different correction. That's what you do in that
you're saying
moment.
he corrects for the Earth rotation? Pilots never correct for the Earth rotation. What are you talking?
It's the net effect.
That's not an answer, bro.
Well, you seem to know a lot about what pilots do and don't do. Where'd you learn
They land
all
on a
this?
perfectly stationary. I just know that they're trained to treat it as perfectly stationary. They never have to worry about the Earth rotation, and they can randomly fly wherever they want and still treat it as stationary, no matter which way the winds were blowing and no matter which tangential velocity he might be landing on. How is he always able to treat it as stationary when the Earth atmosphere is not even said to be in perfect sync, and it wouldn't even be a good enough mechanism to move them along to not even be in perfect sync anyway. So none of it works, bro. It just proves the Earth is stationary.
What do you think the atmosphere is? Do you think the atmosphere is the local weather system that's within the next 5 miles of the airport?
Of course, I don't think any of the straw mans that you're going to come up.
Right. And so when the entire atmosphere is more or less in lockstep with it, doesn't mean the local systems within it are. There might be an additional 10-mile-an-hour wind. So all that changes is like that particular section is at the equator is 1,047 miles an hour instead of 137. So it's only a 10-knot difference that he has to make. And what does his gauges say? The wind is 10 knots extra. So he corrects for that.
We're talking about Earth's surface, not wind. We're talking about the surface of Earth moving faster than where he took off from. Nothing to do with winds. Winds, if he actually had a destination, he would have to correct for winds and stuff. But this guy has no destination. He's got no ground path. He's randomly landing in the clearing. But it's about 500 miles per hour faster, and he doesn't care. He's just going to land wherever he wants and always be able to treat it as stationary. And there's no mechanism to make the plane in sync. Because even if it was the atmosphere, even if it was the net effect of some atmosphere that could do that miraculously, it still wouldn't be in perfect sync, and it wouldn't be good enough. He never has to deal with a moving surface, so the Earth is stationary.
The only way that what you're saying would happen is if the wind was blowing at 500 miles an hour at the equator, and it isn't.
What are you talking about? I'm talking about the 500 mile per hour difference of the surface of the Earth. Has nothing to do with winds.
Yes, it does. The airplane doesn't care about the surface of the Earth. The airplane cares about the wind it's flying in, the air it's flying in. If the air it's flying in is moving with respect to the surface at 10 miles per hour, and it's doing it where you leave from and at the equator, there's no difference in those two conditions. They are exactly the same.
Well, I don't know what the airplane cares about, but the pilot cares about landing safely on a surface that he always treats as perfectly stationary. That's what the pilot cares about. And there's no mechanism to make the plane in perfect sync.
You keep telling me what the pilot cares about. How much training have you had?
It doesn't matter about me, dude. I'm talking about what the globe model says. It's 500 miles per hour faster than where he took off from, the surface itself, right? And winds go in all directions. And there's not even a perfectly in sync atmosphere. Even though the net effect of it you can think of as somewhat in sync, it still wouldn't be good enough. So the pilot's going to just treat the Earth as stationary no matter what, even if it's a random place that he's landing. How's that possible?
It's more than good enough. That's all it has to happen. All that has to happen is the air mass to remain more or less in sync with the rotation of the Earth, minus, give or take, the wind. That's all that has to happen. And then your problem disappears. Poof.
If you think more or less landing on a stationary surface is the same as stationary, then you can just think that, but that's not the same. More or less in sync is not the same as in sync perfectly. More or less doesn't give you any kind of estimation words here.
Listen to me for a second. When we say more or less in sync, I'm talking about the only difference being wind. Take wind away and the atmosphere rotates in sync with the Earth.
Yeah, but we got winds, right? So there's no consistency to it whatsoever.
That's true no matter whether it's rotating or not.
Yeah, but if it's going 500 miles per hour faster than where he took off from, then there's got to be a mechanism that makes the plane so in sync that he doesn't even notice that the Earth is moving at a different rate.
How is if the air is rotating in sync with the planet?
It's not. It's not in sync. It's not even said to be in sync. That's the problem. It's not even said to be in sync.
I said more or less in sync.
Yeah, and that's scared pilots that are trying to land on a perfectly stationary Earth. More or less isn't good enough.
The only difference being wind. That's it.
And the 500 mile per hour difference of the surface, right? Because he took off where there was a considerable momentum of
There is no 500 mile per hour difference.
The globe model says it's 1,000 at the equator. right? He took off from a place that was only moving 500 miles an hour. There's got to be a mechanism that makes the plane go eastward exactly 500 miles per hour, exactly 500 miles per hour faster, even though winds could be going the opposite direction, and he could be flying against the spin the whole time, randomly doing loops all over the place, landing in a clearing that's 500 miles per hour faster, and he's going to be able to treat it as stationary no matter what the winds were doing or any of that, because it's stationary. That's the point.
No, the globe model does not say the wind increases as you go to the equator. It just doesn't.
It says the surface does. You're totally misquoting me. I said the surface is said to be moving tangentially eastward 500 miles per hour faster from where he might have taken off.
And the air is moving 500 miles an hour eastward.
Oh no, the wind's going all directions, and he's moving, and he's flying against the spin, and he's landing against the spin. So the atmosphere would have to carry him backwards 500 miles per hour faster than even if he kept the conserved momentum he took off from, which is ridiculous to think to begin with. But the air would have to be carrying the plane backwards as he's landing, facing westward, and treating the Earth as stationary still. You get the problem?
Yeah. If it's not in perfect lockstep, it is a wind, whether that's a cyclone, a hurricane, a jet stream, or a 2 mile per hour crosswind. Like that, those subtle differences are local. They're not with the whole like viscous atmosphere that's being drawn to the massive, massive Earth. So that the air, like we said, more or less goes with the Earth, and those local deflections are those 10-mile or in a cyclonic condition 300 mile per hour wind. Those
but
are
you get why I'm saying that. You get why I'm saying more or less isn't good enough. You can't depend on more. More or less is nothing you can depend on. You're not going to explain to the nephew pilot that more or less you're going to be Bonsino. The viscous air is going to make you so in sync you won't even have to worry about it. Because it's more or less about station. You're going to treat the landing as more or less stationary, but it might be moving eastward faster than you are, and you might have winds in the opposite direction to deal with at the same time. That never happens.
Your nephew will be fine, trust me. Let him just listen to his
because
flight
it's freaking
instructor.
stationary, that's why. The only reason he's going to be fine is because the Earth is stationary.
Well, let him talk to a flight instructor.
Yeah, and they'll tell him to treat the Earth as stationary no matter where you go. They'll never tell you you're going to have to deal with a 500 mile per hour faster tangential velocity. You know why? Because the Earth is freaking stationary.
Well, that's not what we teach.
Wait. Pilots are taught to treat the Earth as stationary when they land,
right? No, sir. That's not what we teach.
Oh, they're taught to land on a moving surface and try to make sure that they're in sync with a surface that's moving faster eastward. Are they ever taught that?
That is absolutely not what we teach.
No, because it's stationary. They're just taught to treat it as stationary. Yes or no?
No.
Oh, they're taught to land on a moving surface. That's new, like aircraft pilots are. So you're saying regular pilots are taught to be landing on a surface like aircraft pilots are taught. Is that what you're saying?
No, what we don't do is even address it. It's ridiculous. That's not even something that we talk about.
Because it's stationary. Otherwise, you would have to address it. Obviously,
there's no point in talking about it.
Yeah, because it's stationary. That's why there's no point. Otherwise, it would be a problem. Like I just explained.
Look, you can argue this shit with your buddies at the bar all you want to. In the real world, when we teach people to fly, we don't talk about whether the Earth's rotating or not. It doesn't matter.
I wonder why. Because if the Earth were rotating, it would matter.
Well, we've told you why.
If the Earth were rotating 500 miles per hour faster,
we've told you why. Because the only thing the airplane, and the reason we don't talk about it is because the only thing that matters is the wind. That's all we care about.
Yes, but that's my point. My point is they're not taught to treat the Earth as anything but stationary, like you just admitted.
It makes no difference whether the Earth is stationary or not. It's only the wind. That's all we care about. The
wind speed
is stationary.
The
wind speed relative.
Don't deal with Earth.
The wind speed relative to the surface of the Earth is what we care about.
Yeah,
stop yelling over me, please.
And the ground speed is always determined in relation to a stationary Earth. not a rotating Earth that's going 500 miles per hour faster. So if you had a tangential gradient of the Earth's surface, the ground speed wouldn't even be calculatable because you have to measure the Earth, the plane speed in relation to a surface that's stationary, not to a moving surface that has a tangential gradient.
Well, that would be relevant if there was zero atmosphere that didn't have any viscosity and you were just firing a bullet from the North Pole to the equator. But that's not what pilots do. They have to constantly use their engine to go with the flow of the air. And that flow of the air, plus or minus a couple of nautical miles per hour, goes with the Earth. That we know about
No, it
jet
doesn't.
stream.
No, it doesn't. We got jet streams going in all directions.
That's the jet stream isn't the entire atmosphere.
No, but we got different conditions, and each day, each hour, it's going to be
That's right.
different. And if he's a joyriding pilot, he's got nothing to correct for. He's not using his engines to keep up with the Earth. He's just landing in a random place, but it's 500 miles per hour faster, and he's always going to be still able to treat it stationary. And even if the atmosphere were carrying him, more or less isn't good enough. And the atmosphere is not said to be in perfect sync, even if it were only going in one direction, which we know it's not.
No, it's frequently going in all kinds of different directions, depending on what altitude you happen to be at.
Exactly.
Look up.
So there's no consistency.
Google winds aloft sometime. Winds aloft.
Yeah, there's no consistency, so there's no mechanism
And
to make the plane.
look at how the wind speed and direction changes as you go up in altitude.
That's why they could
and
use trade.
and that's the other thing about the altitude. As you get higher, it's a greater circle, right? So you'd have to actually have a higher acceleration to keep up with the eastward movement as you get up higher. Because you get up higher, that's what it would be if it were a ball, if it were a spinning ball.
You need to do the math on that. That's minuscule. It's a tiny, tiny difference.
I'd said it would be a difference, right? Whether you think it's tiny or not, there's got to be an accountability for the pilot to treat the Earth as perfectly stationary, and these more or less are kind of tiny differences. Those all matter when you're trying to land on a perfectly stationary Earth. That's the problem. Hey, Lush is here. Lush, you want to play us some music and get these ballers a little relief from the silence here? Lush, are you here? What's up, brother?
Yo, it's a little late, but thank you for the invitation.
It's too bad. Can't make noise in your house right now. This guy's great. I'm going to put the link from the couple recordings I had of you over at the other server. I played that a few times for people. People love it.
Thank you.
I can't convince you to play one little soft tune for pretty please.
Somebody throwing a paper airplane inside a jet is treating the jet as stationary when they throw the plane. That doesn't mean the plane they're throwing the paper airplane is actually stationary. How you treat something and what it's actually doing could be entirely different things.
Yeah, there's no tangential gradient to deal with an airplane inside a cabin of a plane. Totally different situation, non sequitur.
You can throw it sideways from one side of the fuselage to the other. There is a tangential difference.
Talking about a 500 mile per hour surface difference. There's no 500 mile per hour surface difference. It would be like trying to throw a paper airplane to a plane that's going parallel at a different speed, right? You're never going to be able to fly that airplane to the other plane through the window perfectly because that plane's going a different speed than the plane you're in. Get it?
it's like saying you can't pass a packet of chips to somebody walking past you because they're walking faster. It's remarkably.
That's a funny scenario. You can't pass a packet of chips because he's walking faster. Talking about airplanes with people in it landing perfect on a perfectly stationary where every little bit counts. They have to
Yeah,
be sure that they're landing on it perfectly. And if it was moving eastward at a different speed, in the slightest, it would be a problem. The wheels would break off at the very least.
like I
Right.
said before, if it's not in perfect lockstep, you'll have those 5-knot winds or those hurricanes that are at 230
Winds are
miles
not
per
the
hour.
same thing. Winds and
Exactly.
surface moving faster eastward and winds moving in all directions are two different things, bro. Not the
Yeah,
same.
and so the atmosphere is. We only say it's not exactly in lockstep because of those small local things. If those things didn't exist, the atmosphere would be in perfect lockstep because there's viscosity, there's texture on the Earth that drags the air with it.
They need a consistent mechanism, not excuses about we say it this way and we think of it this way. You can think of it all you want. It has to be perfect and it has to be a mechanism that doesn't matter what the pilot goes, where he flies, where he lands, what he does. Otherwise, there'd be special training in case those scenarios came up. Where he's going to have to land on a moving surface. And the reason that there's no special training for those pilots, like aircraft pilots are taught, is because there's never a moving surface to deal with. And the only way that's possible is if the Earth is freaking stationary. Lord, please play us a song. Cut to Hidden in the Winds, I guess.
Booked a flight today, Heathrow to JFK. Headed west-southwest, cause there ain't no better way. Gonna find that old Coriolis, they say she's hidden in the winds. But that just can't be if we rotate east, tangential gradient. Hidden in the winds, Coriolis must be hidden in the winds. But the Earth ain't moving faster with the further south we've been. And we never could land safely with that tangential gradient. And we all know every pilot treats the Earth as motionless. So to think it must be moving is just insane, you must confess. But please don't get offended if this song makes too much sense. Just thank God that landing's easy with no tangential gradient in the winds. They said she'd just be hidden in the winds. But the Earth ain't moving faster with the further south we've been. And we never could land safely with that tangential gradient. So here's a lesson for who's listening. It's dynamics that are true. No kinematic concept could ever substitute. So the next time you are flying, no matter where you go, don't worry about rotation, cause we ain't on no damn globe. So here's a lesson for who's listening. It's dynamics that are true. No kinematic concept could ever substitute. So the next time you are flying, no matter where you go, don't worry about rotation, cause we ain't on no damn globe. Hidden in the winds, Coriolis just ain't hidden in these winds. And the Earth ain't moving faster with the further south we go. So thank God we won't be crashing when those wheels hit down below. Hidden in the winds, there ain't no Coriolis hidden in the winds. And thank God it's stationary, or we never say safely land on a surface that is moving with a tangential gradient. Yes, here's a lesson for who's listening. It's dynamics that are true. No kinematic concept could ever substitute. So the next time you are flying, no matter where you go, don't worry about rotation, cause we ain't on no damn globe. Hidden in the winds, Coriolis just ain't hidden in these winds. And their earth ain't moving faster with the further south we've been. And thank God we won't be crashing when we touch down at the end. And thank the Lord, Earth is stationary, or we never safely land on a surface that is moving. There's no tangential gradient.